This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome again. Thank you for joining. So, I think most of you might have joined one of the demo sessions that we have conducted over the last 2 weeks. So, I would not go over what's covered in the course, but I'll just open the course content that we're going to cover, and then we'll start off. Okay, and I know it's too early to start introductions, but over a period of time, I'll get to know each one of you. But for those who don't know, my name is Kiran. I have about 30 years of experience in IT and ITES, and 7 years as a DevOps engineer. Right now, I'm working in as a lead DevOps engineer in one of the startups. That's about me. So yeah, this is a overall view of what we're going to cover, what is covered in this course, and what is cloud, introduction to Azure, and how do we implement DevOps on Azure cloud. Okay, so before we go into other sections, the first thing I would want you all to understand is we all would need an Azure account. Not today, maybe, because this is only limited for 30 days. So if you create a little later, that will be helpful. And also make sure to have a backup account. So how do you have a backup account? Just ask your friend's card or your spouse's card or someone's card and create a backup account after 30 days, not now, because you might need some more time to practice some of the concepts we are going to talk. Okay, and what are some of the softwares that are required? We'll not install Azure CLI as of now, but you would need to install something called as Git Bash on your Windows machines. Okay, do all of you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so Git Bash is the software that you would need to install, and that's the immediate requirement. Maybe in a couple of days you can start installing it. Okay, and also you would need to install something like a code editor where you can edit code, something like Visual Studio Code or Atom, Sublime, anything will do. Okay, okay. Um, so first thing, let's see what's cloud. Okay, okay. I don't have any presentation for cloud as specific, I guess. Okay, yeah. Let's see the Wikipedia definition or what's the official definition of cloud. Then we can start from there. I think we've already seen this in the demo, but just a refresher. Cloud computing is the on-demand availability of compute system resources, especially data storage and computing power, without direct active management by the user. That the term is generally used to describe data centers available to many users over the internet. Large clouds, predominant today, often have functions distributed over multiple locations from central servers. If the connection to the user is relatively close, it may be designated an edge server. Clouds may be limited to a single organization or be available to many organizations. That is public cloud. Okay. So if you take a look at these are various levels of services. You get the entire infrastructure. When I say entire infrastructure, you can get the required infrastructure as a service. That's the bottom. The bottommost. You know, cloud services that are available. Then platform as a service, like you get an object storage, you get identity as a service, you get some runtime where you can directly deploy your code and forget about everything else, or you can get queue services. What are queue services? We'll talk in the course sometime. And and you will get a database. So in platform as service, you as an end user have some requirement, and you have suppose your own databases. But I mean, when I say own databases, you have some data where you need to deploy into a database and check something, okay, do some analysis or something. Then you need not build a server and install MySQL or MariaDB on it and then run your code or run your database data. Instead, you could directly hire something like a database, Azure SQL or something, and run your uh, feed your database into it and run your queries. Okay, an application as a service, or you could call it software as a service. For example, Gmail is one of the, or G Drive is one of the examples of what do you call software as a service. You don't have to worry about what is running in on it, or where is it running, on which server it is running. You can simply um, go to that website and start accessing it. Most of the organizations also have learning portals by managed by Saba, for example, or they have their payrolls managed by someone else. So in that case, the organizations do not have to do anything in terms of the infrastructure, meaning where the servers are maintained, or in terms of the code. They also don't know what application is running. Maybe the vendor might tell you, vendor is someone who is providing the service. But most of the times, you are not bothered about what is running on it or where the servers are. The work of the SaaS provider is to make sure your users get access and you are able to, access the service without any interruption or with minimal interruption. Okay. So again, another important to note is uh, have functions distributed over multiple locations from central servers. So earlier it used to be like this. Even today, you might see this uh, type of infrastructure in many organizations where they have their own data centers. Okay, so maybe you have your data center somewhere in, okay, Chicago. Here you have one data center, and let's say somewhere in London you have another data center. Okay, what is data center? Data center is nothing but a collection of your computing resources. What are the computing resources? Servers, network cables, switches, okay, storage, your hard drive, and all these things together form your data center. Okay, so you might have two data centers, but your users might be spread all across the globe. Like you might have your development team in India, okay, your QA team somewhere in, you know, okay, your users might be mostly based out of Europe, but you have primary data centers in North America, maybe UK. Okay, maybe you also have users in India as well. Okay, so this means there is some latency. If someone has to access from India, they have to reach the servers in North America and they have to get the data. Though it will, today's internet speed is so faster that you don't see real-time latency, but it would still be experienced. There would be some sort of latency. But when it comes to cloud, okay, it has data centers across the globe. Okay, for example, if you look at Azure infrastructure today, just as an example, okay, see, these are all data centers of Azure, Microsoft Azure. So they are spread across the globe in multiple regions, maybe not for the most of Africa, but in South America, but in the US and the Europe, and also in the Middle East, even in India, they've covered good amount of portion, right? In China, even in Australia. So if you are building applications for users in Australia, let's say, you need not actually have a create your service in West US. You could directly create in Australia East, or if you have your client base close to Australia Southeast, you can create somewhere here. Okay, that will reduce the network latency, and also it will make sure you're compliant with your local government policies. For example, in the US and the Europe, there are some data protection laws which says any data regarding the citizens of the US should not go out of the servers that are residing within the US. I mean, should not go to the servers that are outside US. Meaning, if you are collecting data about users in the US, the data server cannot reside somewhere in Europe or in India. It has to be within US only. Maybe Australia might also have such rule. So in that case, you cannot create your servers in West US or somewhere else. You have to create within Australia. So that's the advantage of cloud. Apart from giving you on-demand resources, it also has geographic spread across the globe. We'll come to this in some time. I'm just trying to cover the important characteristics of cloud. Okay, so clouds may be limited to a single organization or be available to many organizations, which we call it as public cloud. Okay, um, so what is cloud? Let's take a. I mean, you understand that cloud is on-demand availability of resources and all that stuff. But what actually makes cloud work the way it works? Okay, so earlier, what used to happen? You have a big data center, and you have rack servers. Rack servers is nothing but like shelves of servers. You have lots of these are like shelves, and you put your physical devices here. Okay, like your CPUs, you might have seen some servers. Okay, so you put a multiple servers in together. This is called a rack, and you have multiple racks within your data center, and that's one part. And also you have something called as storage. Okay, then you would need network cables, right? You need connectivity to one another, and you would need a lot of routers and switches, right? These are all network devices. So this is managed by data center guys. They'll take care of the physical security. They'll take care of the cooling is running, the power is running, and everything is running. For instance, let's say you are this is in the North American region, okay, somewhere in Chicago or somewhere, and the IT operations team, let's say, is in India. Okay, so we even before 2000s or late 1990s, we got this access of remotely accessing the servers. So let's say this is your internet. Internet is nothing but the actual network. So you connect to internet, and from internet you can actually remotely access these servers using tools like SSH for Linux servers and remote desktop connectivity. You can access these servers remotely. Okay, so here's an IT ops, okay, IT person who has his laptop or desktop configured with all the tools, and he can go to internet, and from internet he can connect to his servers and get the data back. When I say data back, it's like you can access that server as if it is on your local machine, as if it's on your computer, right? You might all know about, I mean, just like you're watching my screen today, you could also access this server from your own desktop, from your organization's network. So once you open it, you can actually create servers. You have tools like VMware ESX or hypervisor, Microsoft Hyper-V, where you can take one server and make it into multiple virtual machines. Okay, so this was the case earlier, but there is a lot of manual process involved. Okay, with the advent of the cloud, what they did was, instead of you getting into a server and There you opening tools like Microsoft Hyper-V or VMware ESX, they've given it a simple web service. Okay. So now you don't have to go into, and you don't have to remotely connect to a server. Instead, you can connect to a web service. There will be a web console of the cloud provider. We'll see Azure's portal in a while. Okay. So through this web console, you can just with a few clicks, you can configure whatever service you need. Okay. And then so you'll connect to the web console, and this web console, which means a web service, it will connect to your data centers and network hubs, and create whatever services you need. Okay. So let's see what I mean by that. So this is your Azure portal. So if you need to create a service, you don't have to log into a virtual server again. You don't need to actually use remote desktop tools, or you don't need to use virtual machines or a RDP tool to connect to a computer, and then from that click on another tool called ESX. You can simply click on virtual machines, okay, and click on add, and you can start creating virtual machines through a simple web interface. Simple web page, you fill in some details, click on next, 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 your virtual machine is prepared, and you're ready to access it remotely. Okay. So this is what it means by without direct management by the user. Meaning you're not actually calling someone from the Azure side. You're not chatting with someone saying that, hey, today I need a server, or you're not creating a ticket. So in the traditional IT world where we worked earlier, if you need a server, we have to create a ticket to the IT team stating that, okay, I need a server with 4 GB of RAM and 4 cores of CPU, and I need a 100 GB of storage, and I need this in so and so the subnet or whatever. So now, even if you are not using a public cloud, even if you are using a private cloud, you can simply log into some portal. Okay, your company will have some portal like, you know, your company might launch something like, okay, my your infra organization, whatever organization.com. So this will be also similar to this Azure cloud, where you will go and select a few details and click on next, next, next. It will create it. So it is not creating on Azure, it is creating on your own private cloud. So this is called private cloud, where you manage your own data center, but you give your users that ability to create resources easily. Okay, easily without creating ticket for data center guys to create a server. So that's the private cloud. What is the public cloud? Public cloud is something which is accessed by multiple organizations and users. So private cloud is typically managed and used by a single organization. Okay. For example, public cloud today, a lot of the big companies use one or the other public cloud. Like for example, Microsoft has its own cloud. Of course, they don't go to the outside world. But if you look at JPMC or any banking organizations, they have their own data centers just because they're cloud. Sorry, they're banking operators, but they are moving some sections of data to cloud today. If you take the big four, the audit companies, KPMG, Deloitte, or any of these companies, they are also starting to migrate to cloud in bits and chunks. If you take TCS or Infosys, their clients are also moving to cloud, and they are also looking for resources. Okay, so public cloud is multiple organizations and multiple users. Okay, so private clouds, nothing but the traditional data center with the additional ease of creating resources. You have a simple interface like web interface or a API where you can create resources. Okay, public cloud. What are the main providers in public cloud today? Anyone? Who are the leading public cloud providers today? Sorry? Three guesses, fine. One guess. There's no right or wrong answer. Come on. You could try. Okay. Anyway, in the interest of time, AWS is the leading cloud provider today, followed by Azure. AWS, of course, we all know it's Amazon Web Services. Amazon is the provider. Azure is Microsoft's cloud offering. Then you have Google Cloud Platform, offered by Google, of course. Then you have IBM Smart Cloud. You have Oracle Cloud as well. I'm not sure how many people use this. Even before all this came, there was something called as Heroku. Who else? Uh, IBM we covered. So these are some of the leading cloud providers, but the top three among all these is of course AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. These three offer similar services with some variance in quality of service, with some variance in pricing as well. Okay. Okay. Any questions so far?
No questions, Kiran. Good.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So when we talked about cloud in the earlier Wikipedia image, we have seen three types of services: infrastructure as a service, which is called as IaaS in short. Okay. Platform as a service, uh, software as a service. Just give me a second. I should have some presentations from the. Okay. Yeah, I found it. Okay. So do you all see my screen? Sorry. Should show you. Okay. These are the three different. If you look at cloud services, these are the three different levels we have. Infrastructure as a service, where developer services are what we call as platform as a service, and SaaS finally. So in IaaS, what you can do is you can hire actual physical servers, you can actual storage, you can hire storage, and you can also hire data center networks. So here you have higher management. You have to build your own servers, meaning you have to deploy your server and install applications on top of it, and any runtimes, any dependencies. You have to do your own management, and everything has to be done by you. Okay, that's the IaaS part. Platform as a service, for example, you are a yeah. So consumers are in total control, and there is management overhead. So you have the total control, but you also have the overhead of managing all these resources. From security patches to OS upgrades and backups, consumers are responsible to keep their systems healthy and up to date. Okay. Example, Azure machines and Azure Kubernetes services. Yeah. And paths, minimal control and less management overhead. Consumers only need to worry about their code and updates to it. Underlying infrastructure is taken care by the cloud. Example again, Azure's web apps. I forgot to add here. Azure's web apps and AWS Elastic Stock Beam. These are some of the applications. Okay. So in this, what happens? What is the use cases? Like you are a developer, you have a nice idea to build an application, simple web application. Okay, but you don't want to have the hassle of running the servers. You don't want to manage your operating system. You don't want to install security patches and all that. But you have a nice code which you tested on your local machine, and you're sure when once you deploy into cloud and make it available to the public will like it. Okay, then you can simply go to Azure Web Apps and say, create an account for yourself and create an Azure Web App and give link to your repository where you stored your code, and your Azure Web App will pick that code and deploy it on its own servers. You never know where the servers are lying, but you can choose some of these configurations. But you need not worry about creating the servers and installing Java, .NET framework, whatever application you use. It will take care of all the dependencies for your application based on your code, and it will run it. That's the PaaS. And SaaS is like, for example, you're an organization. Uh, let's say you're a medium scale organization or even a large scale organization. Your main business is providing support to audit clients or whatever. So you also need some learning portal for your employees internally to teach them about various auditing technologies and other things. Then instead of you creating a learning portal, I mean you hiring a development team and asking them to create a portal about learning, you could simply say we have a service like Saba which is available. I'll simply go there and ask them to create an account for us. That's it. They will. You don't have to worry about your servers. You don't worry about the code. All that you need to do is ask your management team or learning team to prepare content and give it to Saba. Saba will deploy it on the servers. You will simply access it. Or even simpler example is G Suite. Someone asked about G Suite in last demo. So Google Suite is also a suite of applications just like Microsoft Office, but the only difference is Google Suite is available over the web. You can simply open a browser and access your Google Drive, your Gmail, and also there are some advanced features like Google Hire, where if you're an organization, you can track hiring of your employees. Okay, uh, so all these things are SaaS or even Dropbox. Okay, Gmail itself is also a software as a service. Have you ever did any upgrade on your Gmail? No, right? You never do any upgrades on your Gmail because all this is managed by your provider, which is Google. That's the difference between these three types of services: IaaS, PaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, software as a service. Okay, so we are going to focus mostly on IaaS in this course because we want to be a DevOps engineer where we want to be experts on Azure cloud. But in past, there is very minimal control. We need not do anything. Okay, but we might touch Azure web apps, but mostly we'll focus on this part: virtual machines, network, okay, storage, all these parts we will focus. Right. Okay. Again, if you're an organization or you choose among these three services, which services fits you better? Okay. So choice of the service depends on the level of control the project or the organization needs. Okay, it depends upon how much control you want to have over your infrastructure or over your application. Configuration in the operating system for the consumer's application, then IaaS is the right choice. Meaning, you have an application, but for that application to run, let's say you need to do a lot of tweaking on your operating system. You have to change this setting and that setting. Then you better choose IaaS, infrastructure as a service. Okay. If the application doesn't require much tweaking and can be installed on the corresponding runtime, then PaaS would be the right choice. What is corresponding runtime? For any application to run, they should have some underlying software like .NET framework for .NET applications, Java runtime for Java applications. So all these things will be taken care by PaaS, as I said. So if you know that you don't have to do any tweaking, then PaaS is the right solution. Um, SaaS would be right when you do development for the product and need it just the service.
We are not able to hear you.
Hey, sorry folks, I think it was my network got disconnected. So till what time you were able to follow me? You clear about IAS, SA, PAS, and SAS?
Yes, Kiran, you're explaining about IAS, PAS, and SAS, and you're explaining about SAS. There you lost your connection.
Okay. Just a second. I need to be made a presenter again. This is a pain.
You're able to see your screen.
Are you? No, right. Just a second. Just some more time. Yeah, I got you. Presenter access. Okay, could you confirm if you were able to see my screen? Okay, so these are the three different levels of service. And remember, as you go up, the control over each service comes down, but you have ease of access. Like you don't have to worry about your management and all. Okay. Okay. Um, Cloud wars. So, which cloud provider stands where? AWS, being the pioneer in cloud, has a clear lead over the other cloud providers. Of course, AWS has started up much early in 2006 or even before that, but they have consolidated from 2006, and they have a lot of services, and they are the clear leader today in cloud providers. Azure is picking up the pace and growing at faster pace than Amazon, and of course far ahead of GCP. GCP is Google Cloud Platform. So Azure is really picking up the pace and they are growing faster. They have some advantages like traditional organizations which have been using Microsoft tools. They might, you know, they might be inclined towards Azure. But today there are organizations that have a mix of both AWS and Azure as well. Okay. Microsoft's plethora of services makes Azure a default choice for many of its existing customers. Like when I say plethora of services, we're talking about their Office services, there's Active Directory services. All these are companies, many companies have been using these services from long time, like about more than two decades in some cases. So those people might be inclined to choose Azure rather than AWS. Okay. For example, large enterprise IT organization who has been a long time client of Microsoft may consider using Azure instead of AWS. Okay. So there are two aspects to it. One, the adoption of cloud. A lot of people are still using their own data centers or private data centers. But some people are realizing the potential of the public cloud in terms of distributed servers and in terms of the uh, availability they provide. Availability is the the time that your service is not going down is very high. So they provide up to 9 levels of availability in some, but still there are some restrictions. For example, some organizations might have strict what do you call policies when it comes to data protection. Banking industries, for example, they cannot rely. I mean, even the cloud providers also offers you the same level of security, but they are still skeptical. They are very doubtful whether they can put it in public cloud because if there is any data breach, if your data is leaked, and you are a banking organization, you will have to face a lot of fines, and you lose reputation. Your customers may not trust you. In India, people may not care about the data privacy, but in the US, if they come to know that any in the US or in the Europe, if they come to know any data breaches, they are going to have very serious, consequences. I mean, I should not generalize about India as well. Even in India, we are worried about the data protection. Okay, so it might lead to a serious consequence. That's the reason they might be still thinking. But cloud is also offering such security today and such data protection policies. Some even the banking organizations are what we call regulated organizations, like healthcare industry, insurance industry. and even the auditing industry, they are also looking at public cloud. At least not all the data, but at least some data where they don't need to have strict data protection guidelines. So organizations are looking towards cloud in general, and when people are thinking about cloud providers, AWS and Azure are two things that come into their mind today. There might be some use cases for the Google Cloud Platform, but primarily AWS and Azure rule the roast today. They are the top providers. Okay, so this is a total estimate from some time ago. Okay, but as I said, if you see the growth percentage, Microsoft Azure is picking up real fast. Google also says its space is picking up, but it started with a very low baseline actually, $1.2 billion. Okay, now it's moved to $2.3 billion. This is little outdated. I think Azure is still, yeah, April 2019. Azure might have picked up in the last 2 quarters. But one recent study I studied is like, unlike AWS, Azure doesn't completely put out its data. But yeah, people are of the opinion that Azure is growing faster than other cloud services. But you could see that AWS today has a very large market lead. Okay, this is the way the market has grown over the period of time. Amazon, its base itself is very high. It started with 40% of market share, because 40% of the total users who are on public cloud were on AWS from the beginning, and it keep on incrementing towards 47%. Azure began with a mere 8% of the market share. So when it started, only 8% of the total public cloud users were on Azure. Now it's picked to 22%. Okay, so you can definitely understand this growth has been phenomenal. And in the meantime, other cloud services like IBM and Heroku, and there were other cloud providers, they're coming down faster, much faster. Okay, so these were traditional organizations. Not traditional organizations. They were, cloud providers of a small scale. They are coming down very soon because people are moving to AWS, Azure, and Google. Okay, that's about the market share, and that's the end of the presentation. Okay, I'll send you this presentation so that you can, understand what's cloud and just a brief understanding. Okay, so over here, next part is we have to understand what's Azure in this part. Okay, so let's talk about Azure now. Any questions on what a cloud is? Okay, so to put it very simplistically, a cloud is nothing but a group of what do you call data centers. Data centers are nothing but a collection of servers, your network devices, and all these things, right? So what cloud actually does is it will take away all the middleman, and you can directly connect to your data centers by creating, through a web service, and create your own servers, or create your own networks, create your own data disks. All this is made easy by a simple web application where you open it like I've shown you, portal.azure.com, and you can log into it, and you can ask for a web disk, or hard disk, or a web service, or whatever you want, and you can get started with all this happening over the internet without any involvement of middleman. Okay, just like your let's take the example of the cab services some time ago. Today, if you're old enough like me, you remember that there was a time when we used to call to .cabs or zcabs. For example, today I have to go to airport. Yesterday itself, I should call the .cabs or zcabs and ask if they have a cab. Okay, they'll pick up the phone and say, "Sir, tomorrow 8 o'clock we don't have a cab, but 9 o'clock I can give you a cab." And all these things used to happen. Then, okay, what is the price? We used to bargain and all. Okay, come 2012 or 2011, 2011, we got Ola and Uber. So now there's no more involvement of middleman. We have different drivers all across the city. You just need to, look for your driver. So cloud is also something very similar to that. Earlier, you used to create tickets with your cloud provider or your internal IT organizations. They will take their own sweet time and create. Now, no, there's no waiting for the service. You can directly get your server or your hard drive created within a few seconds or a few minutes. Okay, so let's take a look at Azure. So what is Azure? Of course, it's the Microsoft's cloud offering. It's one of the leading cloud providers. Only we have already talked about it. Azure's infrastructure is spread across the globe in 54 regions and 140 countries. So region is nothing but a collection of areas. Like you could call Indian region as Asia Pacific, South Asia Pacific, or something like that. Okay, or you could call Japan as Asia Pacific one. Azure services span across various areas. Example, virtual machines, storage, machine learning, IoT, big data, and security, and many more. So if you're looking for, services for IoT, Internet of Data, or big data, sorry, Internet of Things, or big data, or any particular security tools, you can come to Azure and leverage their services. Okay. Okay, let's talk about Azure's infrastructure. Underlying any cloud service is a network of data centers, typically spread across multiple regions. So, if you take any cloud service, at the underlying, like at the final end, you have your data servers, your network cables, your switches, your hard drives. Okay, so Azure is no different. If you take Azure, it's nothing but a collection of regions. A region is nothing but collection of availability zone. A availability zone is one or more data centers. Okay. So data center is a building complex that hosts computing resources such as servers, storage, and networking devices. Networking devices could include routers, switches, cables with redundant power sources. So this is very important, folks. What is redundant power source? Like you are running a big data center and you need to make sure your services are available throughout the year. So what do you need to do? You will have one power connection. No matter how good your you know service provider is, be it in the US or anywhere, there might always be some sort of power fluctuation or power cut. So for that, you need to have another power source like a generator or an inverter or another provider for electricity. Okay, and also you need to have redundant what do you call network connectivity. You might have Verizon, AT&T, or even if in India it's Tata or something else, but you can't rely on one particular service. They might go down any time due to any reason. That's why you need to have more than one network connectivity as well. Okay, and you need to have cooling to keep all these resources cooled. Right? Initially, when we used to buy CPUs back in the day, I'm talking about late 90s. People used to say, "Oh, you cannot simply buy a CPU. You need AC for that," because they were very, what do you call thermally. They used to get very hot, and you need to cool them down. But later, people said, "Okay, we can buy computers. You need not have AC," because they've brought improvements in these kind of conditioning. But as a server which is running all the time, it definitely needs cooling. Otherwise, it will, the thermal, explosion might happen when you have a lot of servers without any cooling. Okay. And what is an availability zone? One or more data centers in a particular region. For example, in Mumbai, you might have two or three data centers spread across the city. Like one might be in one corner of the city, another corner of the city might have another data center. But these two data centers together is known as one availability zone. Okay, and one or more availability zones together is called as a region. So in Mumbai you have one availability zone, and somewhere in Pune you have another availability zone. So altogether these will be called as one region. Okay, a region consists of one or more availability zone. Azure boasts of 54 regions spread across 140 countries. So they have 54 regions across 140 countries. I'll show that slide again, which we have seen online. There's not much change. Okay, so US West 2 itself is a one region, and within this region there are multiple availability zones. Okay, let me see if I can get an interactive picture of this. No, this is a static diagram. Okay. So if you look at this particular page documentation will tell you about availability zones and all. Okay. Okay. These are the various regions where Azure is spread across. In India also you have it in West India, Central India, and South India. We don't know where exactly these are located. Unlike AWS, they don't give the name of the region, but you could guess. Okay. So Azure offers wide variety of services ranging from virtual machines to IoT and blockchain services. Some of the important Azure services that a typical DevOps team manages are, I mean, we're talking from the DevOps perspective. Uh, we're not talking about a machine learning perspective or all these things, but from a typical DevOps team, you might have all these things: virtual networks, virtual machines, storage. Okay, object storage is nothing but something like your Google Drive where you save files, and we have identity and access management. Identity and access management is the process of granting access to users. For example, your developers might need access to a particular Azure service. That's the DevOps job to create a role for that and add into that role. Okay, and we use container services, we use registries, and Azure Kubernetes services. These are some of the services we are going to touch in our course as well. Okay, so in the networking, it's not only virtual networks. We'll also talk about load balancers and stuff like that. Okay, so that's a small caveat to Azure. Okay, Azure, when it initially launched, it launched with a portal called as Azure Service Manager. Okay, the portal was called Azure Service Manager. It was simply accessible on windows.azure.com, but that had a lot of issues. That was not very user friendly. So then they thought we will launch another service parallelly. They named it as Windows Resource Manager. Okay, so the service manager, since it is a classic one, it has become classic provider, and the resource manager has become resource manager. So over a period of time, people started migrating to resource manager because resource manager is much easier to manage. Then they slowly started discontinuing Azure Classic or Azure Service Manager. Finally, I think in 2018, they stopped using Azure Classic. There is only one portal, Azure Resource Manager today. We need not worry about Azure Classic today, okay, because Azure Classic is not in use anymore. But there might be a very odd chance of one or two resources still being created in Classic model, but you can access them through Resource Manager. Okay, Resource Manager portal is nothing but what we looked at some time ago. This one. Okay, this is your Resource Manager portal. Earlier, this used to look different, not very user friendly. That was called Azure Service Manager. Okay, but now we have to worry about only one link, portal.azure.com. Over here, you see everything. Okay, as I said, until Jan 2018, both Classic and RM portal ran parallelly because they're as if one cloud provider but two different services. But Classic portal was sunsetted in January 2018. Sunsetted in the sense it's closed forever. Okay, some organizations might still have resources that were deployed using Classic deployment model, and they can be accessed from Azure portal. You can still access from the Azure Resource Manager portal. So very odd chances of one or two resources lying on the traditional portal. That's why I kept this slide. Okay, this was how the Classic portal looked. It's not available anymore. Okay. Okay, so tomorrow we'll talk about Azure portal and see what are the various components. I mean, don't create your accounts yet. If you have a free account, when I say free account, not the free trial account. If you have access to your Azure through some friend who is working in Microsoft or Microsoft client, that's fine. But otherwise, wait for 2 more days, then we can start creating Azure portal subscription. Okay. So tomorrow I'll just take you through this portal. What are the various components and how do we manage? We'll talk about this tomorrow. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, hi Kiran, we are going to create.
All right, then we'll meet tomorrow morning.
Hello.
Hello?
Kiran?
Yeah, we will. Yeah, each of you will have to create an account. But don't create it today because
Okay.
this is only valid for 30 days. So creating once we start practicing, then that's the best time to create it. But again, I'm reminding you, Azure portal requires a credit card to create a free trial account. You will not be charged, don't worry, but you will need a credit card, a working credit card, because it will be again validated by sending you OTP and all that stuff.
Yeah, hi Kiran. Small doubt. I mean, yeah, we can create an account for 30 days, right?
Yeah, it is
And
accessible. Yeah, it
yeah,
is free for 30 days.
and after that again we can create one more ID with different mail ID, right? It will track networks.
Different mail ID and also different credit card, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, different mail ID and different credit card. Okay, fine.
Yeah, you can create it. That's what I meant by backup account.
Yeah, sure, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very important. I mean, it's very important for you to continue practicing, so you will need a backup account.
Uh, Kiran,
Yes.
this request from my side. I mean, the voice that you speak was little fast enough. Sometimes we are not able to catch you. Actually.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. I'll go slower. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other suggestions?
Hey Kiran, so I have a question. You gonna give
Sure.
the interview questions by each end of the session based on the service that we learned for today, or how that's gonna work when we are facing our interviews after the training and stuff?
We could definitely do a set of or a couple of mock interviews, but I wouldn't, I mean, I've never maintained a list of interview questions, but I can get for you like what are the common questions that are asked regarding each of the surveys, or what I would ask when I'm interviewing some people. Okay, and
Yeah,
it's
actually that
very.
helps us to push ourselves in the market because it's pretty competitive, right? So
Yeah, I'll definitely tell you, I mean, when we are discussing any service, I'll tell you what are the questions that you might face or what is the interviewer looking in. But it's a tricky thing, right? Because you also need to
yeah,
learn
I
this bit.
understand.
Because they
Okay.
might ask you a leading question. Leading question is, for example, they ask you about a load balancer. You answer it well, but then from that question they might ask something else. So I'll tell you what to be prepared, but not exactly what is the answer. That's up to you.
Yeah, I understand. Just to pick up the base end, we need to tell something like what to be answered as would be better,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
what to face and stuff. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, appreciate it, man.
yeah. Sure. Any other questions?
Hi Kiran, this is Varaprasad. What
Yeah.
about the lab? Will you able to provide any lab guidance or will be teaching in class the step by step?
Sorry, what is that? I did not get the question.
No, no. Will you able to provide any lab guidance for the labs? Creating a VM, VNet, those type.
You're asking a log.
Lab. I'm asking
Lab,
the
lab.
lab.
Yeah,
I'm not
your
a
lab will be on your Azure portal itself, right? That's the beauty of cloud. So you can practice from your own laptop from Azure portal because you're learning DevOps on Azure.
yeah. Yeah, that would be fine. Just I'm asking about the steps. Will you be able to give any step by step lab guidance or you will be teach only like while in the class explaining? Am I audible? Hello, Kiran.